I was on a walk this morning with my little buddy, dude, and he said that he wants us to get to 500 likes on today's video. And I told him that if we do, he's going to get a brand new toy. So help out my little guy, hit the thumbs up icon, and drop a like. Let's get into today's content. Trade buzz that you can't miss. It's big-time trade rumors coming in from a big-time reporter, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. He recently put out the latest around some players who could be on the move at the NFL trade deadline. It's on November 4th, just around the corner. We're going to go through some intel. A few players were mentioned, and we're going to break it on down and react here on Saints Now by Chat Sports. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's video, just wanted to let you guys know an honorable mention for the New Orleans Saints was mentioned, and it was Pete Werner. And for what it's worth, I know that there's a lot of chatter around there around the linebacker position. There's trade rumors around Demario Davis. There's trade buzz around Pete Werner. There's a lot of hype around Danny Stutzman. And for me personally, I wouldn't actually mind trading Pete Werner away. If you can get something nice in return, I do think that that would be something valuable because I'm really eager to see the youth takeover in New Orleans, especially on the linebacker position. We've seen a lot of that turnover happen already with Quincy Riley being a starter, Jonas Sanker being a starter, and soon potentially Danny Stutzman. His snap count has recently increased. So I think that this is a move that could potentially happen. But let's get into more. Trade candidate number one, he listed Jeremy Fowler, went through a bunch of different players, ranked 25 guys who could get moved. So for Chris Olave, he listed him as number 7 in the article of players who could get moved. And I thought that it was pretty interesting that he had Chris Olave listed so high, and he predicted that he has a 20% chance of actually getting moved. And I will say for a team that's interested in Chris Olave, obviously you're going to get a talented player and a guy with a lot of upside, and you do have him under contract next year because the Saints did pick up his 5th-year option. But he's a player that if you're the New Orleans Saints, I caution you to do this because it could really hurt the development of the quarterback and of Kellen Moore's offense. Now, here's what Fowler had to say more in depth. Olave has moved past the concussion issues, and he had 2 big play touchdowns in Week 7. He's making a case for a contract extension with the New Orleans Saints, and first-year coach Kellen Moore has an offensive background and needs all playmakers at his disposal. And we're going to talk more about this trade rumor. We're going to talk more about it because he did mention a little bit around Rashid Shaheed. But overall, I want to say that it's really, really interesting that Jeremy Fowler brought up the contract extension. That's also a report that we got from Diana Rossini. We're going to break down more around Alontae Taylor and Chris Olave. A lot to discuss here on this video. First things first, got to thank today's presenting sponsor, and that is PrizePicks, my favorite way to watch sports. Look, I'm not a huge hoops guy. I've been really getting more into hockey, and football is my bread and butter. But I'm trying to stay tapped into watching sports all year round, and PrizePicks is helping me do that. It's so simple to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. And PrizePicks has a sweet deal going on for viewers at Saints Now by Chat Sports. If you use code CLNS, you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks has a really cool new feature. You can follow other players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab over on PrizePicks. Now, here's how it works. I got one cooked up for Thursday Night Football. Justin Herbert going with the less on his passing yards. Justin Jefferson, I'm taking the more. You see that little icon? That's a taco because I took advantage of the Taco Tuesday special. The receiving yards dropped, and I was able to get a little bit of an easier deal here with PrizePicks. And then, of course, I'm going to take the more on Kamani Vidal's rushing yards as well. If you want to fade these picks, you want to tail the picks, don't really care what you do, make sure you do it on PrizePicks. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS, and you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Click the link in the comments and description of this video to download the PrizePicks app and use that code CLNS. Reminder, you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Shout out to PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Now, I want to tell you guys a little bit about Rashid Shaheed here. So Jeremy Fowler in this article said that if Chris Olave does not end up getting traded, Rashid Shaheed is a player that could emerge as a trade target. And it's very obvious why. He's in the last year of his contract. He's started to really take over as a receiving threat. He's one of the best deep threats in the National Football League. And for what it's worth, he was an undrafted free agent. If you can turn that into some draft capital, more times than not, that's a pretty easy decision to make. But just like with Chris Olave, if you lose Rashid Shaheed, I do think that it could really impact the development and the growth of Kellen Moore's offense and the quarterbacks. Remember, Jeremy Fowler said Kellen Moore has an offensive background, needs all playmakers at his disposal. And so, in my personal opinion, I think trading away a wide receiver like Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed would be a bad idea. But a player such as Brandon Cooks, maybe a Mason Tipton if somebody's interested, I think that is a move that I would be more inclined to make over a Rashid Shaheed or a Chris Olave. Now, teams to monitor listed by Jeremy Fowler in his article: the Pittsburgh Steelers, the San Francisco 49ers, and the New York Giants. But a couple of the teams come to mind: the Patriots and the Bills. They are also teams that could be interested, and have been rumored to be interested in pass catchers. So when it comes to the New Orleans Saints, the decision has to be made. Not yet, but a decision does need to be made. The Saints have been working on an extension with Chris Olave. Those are reports that we've seen from Diana Rossini. We've discussed that in great detail here on the show. Chris Olave was even asked about the extension talks. He said that they have been having conversations since the beginning of the year. He feels very confident, and he's not shied away from saying he loves New Orleans and he wants to be here for the long haul. And the Saints did pick up his fifth-year option, so it's not like the black and gold have to go and try to trade him sooner rather than later, right at the trade deadline, if they want to get something in terms of value. You could push that back and do it during the offseason, although I don't think that that's what the New Orleans Saints will end up doing. Personally, I think trading a wide receiver is a risky move for New Orleans. I've talked about it. I've mentioned it. I've explained why, and I just think that if you are the Saints, it would be a bad idea to offload weapons on an offense that already struggles to score and create explosive plays. You don't want to get rid of explosive playmakers because although, yeah, you can replace them in the draft, you still have an entire back half of the season that you have to play, and that can be really helpful in developing and helping your offense evolve and developing the quarterback position. Now, I'm going to ask you the question: do you think that Chris Olave will get traded? Not would you trade him, but do you think he will get moved? I'm going to type my in for no. I personally think he is not going to get dealt, but what do you think? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Let's go to Alontae Taylor here because this one's an interesting one. And I've mentioned this before where Trizzy was right. By the way, we talked about this on the channel earlier this week. I said there's a handful of teams out there that are interested in potentially trading for a cornerback. Alontae Taylor is definitely a name to keep an eye out. And where I was right, I was right. Jeremy Fowler today listed him as one of the players that could be moved. He said that it would be a surprise if the Alontae Taylor got moved. But if the Saints don't want to trade Taylor, this would be a surprise, but it's still one to watch. The Saints don't want to trade Taylor, but would consider it if they receive a strong offer. He is off the radar of a few teams. He is on the radar of a few teams. Taylor's a 2026 free agent who figures to earn a big payday. And Jeremy Fowler had him listed as 9th in his rankings of 25 players who could be dealt. He predicts that he will have a 25% chance of getting traded. He's very appealing due to the experience and the versatility. It's interesting that Alontae Taylor had a higher percentage than Chris Olave. Kind of interesting to think about. But in 2025, we have seen him be fairly productive. And I know there's this narrative and this idea out there that he's been terrible and he stinks. There's a few things that matter here. He's been moving all over the field. He has become very versatile and very reliable at a plethora of different positions for the Saints defense, and he's asked to do a lot of different things, and he does all of those at a pretty decent level. Now, with Alontae Taylor, I can understand why he is getting some trade buzz and why he might be appealing. I mean, he's a very versatile guy. He's very dangerous, especially at rushing the passer. He's a guy that we've seen have multiple sack games in his career, and he's also has a ton of swagger. He's a leader. He's very vocal, and he's emerged and grown in a big, big way as a football player and as a professional in New Orleans. And he has a really competitive mentality. He's very fiery. He can provide a spark to a defense, and he has a lot of experience doing a lot of different things. So I can definitely see teams being interested in this player and wanting to bring them to the defense, especially if there's injuries or if you just need that extra versatile piece to go on a run. Now, some teams to monitor that Jeremy Fowler listed: the Buffalo Bills, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Dallas Cowboys. But personally, I also think that the Raiders and the Eagles do come to mind. Mitchell Renz of the Raiders Report, him and I were talking, and he said that he does know that the Raiders have had Alontae Taylor on their radar. So I could see them being interested in the young corner as well. And for me, I personally would rather keep Alontae Taylor. At some point, you need to have talented youth and talented players to build around. You can't just wipe it all out and start from scratch and expect it to be perfect. Like, Alontae Taylor is a really valuable leader, and he's still getting better. He's only 26 years old, and I think that if you trade him away, it just adds another need and another hole on your roster that you would have to fill. And if you trade him, who fills that role now? Is it Ugo Amadi? Does Jonas Sinker move down and Jordan Howden, emerges as the starter next to Justin Reed? I don't really know what the construction of that would look like, but I do think that keeping Alontae Taylor is in the best interest for the New Orleans Saints. Plus, I think that he's a player that provides a lot to the defense, especially mentally and with his attitude and his swagger. I really like seeing him on the field, and when he takes over in games, you can definitely tell his presence is on the field. Now, how many trades do you think the New Orleans Saints will make here at the November 4th trade deadline? Personally, I could see like 1 or 2 being made. Like, I think Pete Werner is a name that could get moved. I don't think Cam. I don't think DeMario. Alvin's not going anywhere. Maybe Rashid Shaheed or Chris Olave. Maybe Alontae Taylor. We'll have to see what happens. I'm going to go with 1 trade. I think 1 trade because you only have 5 picks and you're going to need to get some draft capital. Now, if you want to get more coverage in between these videos, I'm posting all the time on social media. You can hit me up on X, Instagram, or TikTok. Search up Trizzy Trace on any of these platforms. I also have it linked in the comments down below. And if you want to get more updates around my buddy Dude, I also post on social media around him. He's always featured. He's the homie. So show some love to Dude in the comments. And by the way, let me know the name of your fuzzy little friend and your furry fella at home. Appreciate you guys for rocking and rolling. My name is Trizzy Trace Gerard for Loco Lopez. Y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.